A female model was murdered in a village in Tai Po. Hospital authorities reveals findings on fallen surgical light. Hello and welcome to TVB News. A female model is suspected to have been murdered as police found a dismembered body of a recently missing woman in Tai Po. Sources say that the victim was model and media personality Abby Choi. 3 suspects have been arrested. Timothy Lee reports.
Police officers have cordoned off the village of Long Mei Chun in Tai Po and are investigating the possible murder. 3 individuals suspected to be involved in the case have been arrested, with 1 individual revealing the location where the crime was committed. At the crime scene, police found the dismembered body of a woman, with several parts of the body still missing. Officers are investigating the motive for the murder. Sources say that the victim was well-known model Abby Choi, who was reported to be missing by the police on Tuesday. She was reportedly going to see her daughter before vanishing. Authorities said she was last seen on Tai Po's Fo Chun Road and was seen wearing a white outfit with identification documents and cash. Reports say the Kowloon West Regional Police Headquarters will continue with the investigation. Choi reportedly lived on Kadori Hill in Ho Man Tin, and according to social media, was interviewed by a mainland fashion magazine. She previously appeared in overseas fashion exhibitions, film premieres, and banquets. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
5 days after a surgical light fell from the ceiling in a hospital's operating theater, the hospital authority released its latest findings on the case. They found that all 6 screws of the device were broken, with issues ranging from rustiness to wear and tear. Jackie Lin reports.
Cracks, rust, and worn-out surfaces. These are the conditions of the 6 screws used to mount the surgical light, which crashed down on an anesthetic assistant at United Christian Hospital on Saturday. In an independent inquiry into the mishap, the bolt supposed to be of high strength and quality found to have 3 critical issues. They include having beach marks, which are fractures caused by long-term stress and metal fatigue. 2 other problems, rust along the ridges and stripped screws, which refer to the worn-out slots in their head. But how did the technicians fail to detect such defects during inspections?
I'm afraid I don't have a solid answer, because he might have used a torque wrench, which was not properly calibrated. He might have been provided with tools that actually went out of order. So he was not aware of that. And the simple answer is that he did not do anything. Okay, he did not follow the proper procedure. That's one possibility, but that's not a definite answer.
Eric Lim, who was commissioned by the hospital authority to look into the case, said the operating theater has a stable environment and humidity, so the rust and fractures should have been formed at least half a year or 1 year ago. He said authorities should replace all surgical light screws of the same model immediately. Regular replacements of bolts should be done every 5 years in future.
We are pressing hard for the vendor to hand us the investigation report as soon as possible. But our priority is that they need to fix our lights as soon as possible to put our operating theater back in use first.
The hospital authority said it will reserve the right to pursue legal action against the contractor. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan continued to speak to the media today to explain the policies and measures announced in Wednesday's budget. He said it's not the right time to impose a property vacancy tax. Mimo Sangai reports.
In the newly announced budget, Financial Secretary Paul Chan revealed the government's deficit for this year is close to $140 billion, leading to some suggestions that authorities should try to increase revenue and reduce expenditure. But Chan did not propose any new taxes to broaden the government's tax base. Speaking on a radio program today, the Financial Secretary said it is not the right time to impose a property vacancy tax, which would have taxed newly built flats which are unoccupied for 6 months or longer.
We have looked at the vacancy rate. At the moment, it is still pretty low. So for average citizen, I think levying a vacancy tax may not be very productive towards our policy objective, but creating nuisance to them.
But Chen said he's looking to refine the rating system for properties.
We are reviewing our rating system, and we are doing some internal infrastructure preparation. The aim is towards the end of this year, we will be able to introduce a more refined rating system, and by that time, luxurious properties may be levied at a higher rate. That is levying rates on affordability basis.
One of the few new revenue sources for the government is a $2.4 billion special football betting duty per year, which will come from the Hong Kong Jockey Club over the next 5 years. Chan insisted such a decision will not affect the finances of the club.
Overall eventual financial result of the club, by looking at the past 5 years, would still be in a positive balance. And the club made a significant investment income the year before last because of good global situations, good investment environment. So they can afford it.
On when the government will remove the mask-wearing mandate, Chan said it could be scrapped by the end of the current season, and the Health Bureau is actively dealing with the matter. Mingmusanai, TVB News.
Customs have seized around 26.5 million illicit cigarettes with an estimated worth of $89 million. It's the first case involving smuggled cigarettes since the tobacco tax was raised this week. The seized items have a taxable value of $66 million. The authorities raided a tugboat with a barge that had 2 containers on it in the sea off Yau Ma Tei yesterday. During the search, officers realized something was suspicious when the cargo warehouse receipt was missing. After opening one of the containers, they found a large amount of unregistered cigarettes of various brands. The captain and 3 crew members have been arrested. After a 3-year hiatus, the biggest annual hiking and fundraising event in Hong Kong, the Oxfam Trailwalker, resumed today. A total of 1,600 people participated. This is Pak Tam Chung in Sai Kung this morning, the starting point of Oxfam Trailwalker. Many participants were delighted by the comeback of the event. Secretary for Security Chris Tang arrived at the scene to support the Discipline Services team. Trailwalkers will walk the 100-kilometer Maclehose Trail in 48 hours, ending at Po Lung Kuk Jockey Club Tai Tong Holiday Camp in Yuen Long. All donations received from the event will be used to support Oxfam's poverty alleviation and emergency relief projects in Africa and Asia, including Hong Kong. Overseas, Russia began its invasion of Ukraine on this day last year. As the war enters its 2nd year with no end in sight, Russia was isolated at the United Nations in a vote demanding its forces withdraw. This as Ukraine pledged to push on for victory. Matthew Bray reports.
As fighting continues to rage in Ukraine's south and east, its allies showed their support on the first anniversary of Russia's invasion. The Eiffel Tower in Paris was lit up in the blue and yellow of the Ukraine flag. In New York, there was a vigil outside the Russian consulate. US President Joe Biden will meet virtually with G7 leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to mark the 1-year anniversary and announce new sanctions against those aiding Russia's war effort. Earlier at the United Nations, foreign ministers made an appeal for peace ahead of a vote by the General Assembly on a just and lasting peace.
Today, each and every one of us here has to choose to stand isolated with the oppressor or to unite for peace, to stay silent or to protect our UN Charter.
The non-binding resolution drafted by Ukraine passed 141 to 7 with 32 abstentions, sending a strong message that appears to leave Russia more isolated than ever. China abstained. On the ground, Russia's Wagner group of mercenaries said it has taken control of a village on the outskirts of Bakhmut, the frontline city that has seen intense fighting over recent weeks. but control of Bakhmut is far from decided. This mortar team leader in the Ukrainian army said the fighting is as close to 100 meters apart at times between the warring sides.
Великі народи великої України.
Zelensky's message was a somber one of defiance to his citizens, saying, "We will defeat everyone." He described 2022 as a year of resilience, courage, pain and unity. Ukraine forces prevented a quick Russian victory last year, but since then the conflict has become one of grinding warfare, with neither side gaining the upper hand. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
The European Union's two biggest policy-making institutions have banned TickTock from staff phones for cybersecurity reasons. Owned by Chinese company ByteDance, TickTock is under scrutiny from governments due to concerns that China's government could use the app to harvest users' data. EU industry chief Thierry Breton announced the plan by the European Commission, but declined to say whether it had been subject to any incidents involving TickTock. TickTock said it was disappointed that the Commission had not reached out before instituting the ban. Coming up after the break, British minister offers creative solution to shortage of vegetables. Half-century anniversary of the Good Citizens Award. Welcome back. On the first anniversary of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, China has issued a 12-point plan calling for the resumption of peace talks between the two sides to resolve the crisis. Beijing said the international community should stay committed to promoting peace talks and help both sides open the door to a political settlement. Tracy Furness reports.
China wants to prevent the Russia-Ukraine crisis from getting out of control. In a statement with a 12-point plan issued by the Foreign Ministry today, Beijing said dialogue and negotiation are the only viable ways to resolve the conflict. All parties must stay rational and exercise restraint, avoiding fanning the flames and aggravating tensions, and preventing the crisis from deteriorating further or even spiraling out of control, it said. On the one-year anniversary of Russia invading Ukraine, China called for a de-escalation of the situation, ultimately reaching a comprehensive ceasefire. Ukrainian Foreign Minister said this week that China's top diplomat Wang Yi shared some of the main points of Beijing's proposals with him during a meeting in New York. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told a news briefing in Kiev, "We would like to meet with China." A senior Ukrainian diplomat in China said Beijing's statement is a good sign towards peace.
The fact that Chinese side published this document is a good sign. It's a good fact that China is trying to be involved more in the global efforts to end the war in Ukraine. China should do everything in its power to stop the war and restore peace in Ukraine and urge Russia to withdraw its troops.
Russia has also welcomed China taking a more active role in efforts to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. Beijing's attempts to reach a peace deal and Wang Yi's recent visit to Moscow have received a mixed reaction in the West, which believes Russia's increasing reliance on China make it one of the few countries able to truly influence Moscow. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The United Kingdom continues to be grappling with a shortage of fruit and vegetables amid fears it could continue for months. But the minister responsible for food suggests an alternative: turnips. David Garrett reports.
Empty baskets, empty shelves, and a government making what they hope are not empty promises.
After discussion with industry and retailers, we anticipate this situation will last about another 2 to 4 weeks. It's important that we try and make sure that we get alternative sourcing options.
Noting that the British public is struggling to find supplies of tomatoes, peppers or cucumbers, the minister responsible for food, who has a doctorate degree in chemistry, offers a solution: eat turnips.
It's important to make sure that we cherish the specialisms that we have in this country. A lot of people would be eating turnips right now rather than thinking necessarily about aspects of lettuce and tomatoes and similar, but I'm conscious that consumers want a year-round choice.
The government has blamed exceptionally cold snaps in southern Europe and North Africa for disrupting supplies. These shoppers are not buying it.
The fruit I want to put, they're gone. Nothing there. Tin veg, we'll have to make do with them for now until it comes back, eh?
It's been made even worse because of the gas price and many growers not planting. Normally by now we've already got English cucumbers in production, but there isn't many English cucumbers in production, if any at all, at the moment. So I think that's made the problem worse.
And while it is difficult to get your hands on those things, the price of other items is soaring. Recent research suggests pasta has doubled its price in the UK in 2 years. David Garrett, TVB News.
A coast-to-coast winter storm in America that has brought chaos on the roads and cut power to nearly 1 million homes is set to pound California. Snow has already been falling heavily in many parts of the West Coast, sparking warnings of floods and blizzards. Drivers have been battling snowy conditions before possible highway closures. The U.S. National Weather Service said as much as 1.5 meters of snow is likely to fall in mountains near Los Angeles, leading to whiteout conditions as winds reach up to 120 kilometers per hour. An increased risk of avalanches has also been flagged. And back here at home, property prices in January rebounded 0.5% month on month. That also marked an end to a 7-month downward trend. Prices for small, medium, and large-size homes were all higher in January than the month before. However, compared with the same time last year, values dropped nearly 14%. Rents also continued to slip for the 5th month, with a decline of 0.6% or a drop of 4% year-on-year. Rosanna Tang, an analyst from Cushman & Wakefield, said the latest stamp duty adjustment in the government budget and the border reopening could boost the market. The firm expects a price surge of between 5 and 10% through 2023. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Good Citizen Award, which is organized by the police force. A total of 80 residents were given the award this year, with the youngest recipient aged just 15 years old, who received the honor after assisting authorities in arresting an indecent assault suspect. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Among the 80 awardees are 19-year-old lifeguard Chang Kin Lam and 64-year-old security guard Lau Chi Kung. 2 years ago, Chang assisted a female security guard in a Kowloon Bay mall in capturing a purse snatcher. He chased the thief from the 3rd floor of the mall to the middle of the street and said that his experience in martial arts gave him an advantage in subduing the criminal.
I have a little bit scared, but I don't think too much. I just want to chase.
Chang emphasized that the harrowing experience affirmed his childhood dream to join the police force. A teenage lifeguard now, he said he will pursue this goal after first spending some time studying abroad. Meanwhile, security guard Lau Chi Kung witnessed a woman attempting to commit suicide by burning charcoal in her car. His quick response in containing the authorities saved the woman's life. A record-breaking 179 residents were nominated for the Good Citizen Award this year, while more than half of all awardees were below the age of 29. The youngest recipient, a 15-year-old female student, recorded the footage of an indecent assault in progress while on a minibus, before handing the evidence over to the police.
For the overall crimes, we see that the deception cases and also the sexual offense, all those cases are very important, and the awardees are most of the awardees are involving of these kinds of cases.
Between the 27th of this month to the 5th of March, the police will hold a Good Citizen Award exhibition at the Yuen Long Yoho Mall, where residents can learn about the history of previous recipients of the award. The Good Citizen Award was introduced in 1973 in order to recognize residents who went above and beyond to assist in the city's fight against crime. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Although the last day for users to register prepaid SIM cards was yesterday, the government said those who have missed the deadline can still reactivate their cards. The Communications Authority said about 12 million SIM cards had been registered, and any unregistered cards have been deactivated by the local telecommunications service providers. However, the government said users with deactivated cards can reactivate them by registering online or visiting service providers' outlets and 18 designated post offices. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.